You're listening to Sports and More with Chris and Tom.
Welcome back. It's the guys with the faces for radio and the voices for a silent movie. Wait a minute.
Hey, wrong way. Over here.
There you are.
Oh, Opa. Yeah.
I thought you got turned around.
No,
Hey, for those of you not watching this on YouTube, here I am again. Welcome back. It's the guys with the faces for radio and the voices for a silent movie.
This is Sports and More with Chris and Tom. I am Chris.
And I am Turnaround Tom.
Turnaround Tom.
And we're going to dive right into it, man.
Go ahead.
Spicy night. So, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly are on the move.
Oh, yeah.
When they told us last week, they were not.
Not on the move.
This past Sunday, November 28th, it was announced by Bruce Feldman of the Athletic and the University of Southern California, USC, that Lincoln Riley would be leaving Oklahoma University to become the head coach at USC.
Whew.
The day prior, however, Riley had adamantly said that he was not leaving Oklahoma for LSU.
He did not
lie.
lie.
Say that specifically. He did not lie. Just like, as we will get into it, Brian Kelly said that he is not leaving Notre Dame for USC.
Yeah, they did not lie.
They did not lie. Riley had, just before this season, inked a 6-year, $38.9 million extension at Oklahoma. Goodness, man, there's some serious money in college football.
Yeah.
So one speculated reason for Riley to leave Oklahoma for USC is Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 in 2025 for the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Riley was not a big fan of the move, did not really support it, but that was really not his call. It was the university's call.
Yeah.
And then also thinking Riley is 1-3 against SEC teams. So obviously he doesn't like the move because he's got a losing record against SEC teams. So it's going to be a hard go of it for the first few years entering into a new conference. But I mean,
Big 12.
That's
SEC.
you also they're one of they're the best in the Big 12. Like you can't say that they are.
Yeah.
That,
Consistently,
who would be better?
No one really, but they're consistently the top three. They're not always the team that's going to win the Big 12.
Not always
but
the team.
It's like Alabama, where they're like, oh, it's usually Alabama and someone else. It's like it's Oklahoma and someone else in the Big 12, typically.
Right. And Chris, we do know the contract details.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to read those.
We didn't have these yesterday.
We didn't know this as of a couple hours ago, or I didn't let Chris in on the contract details because I wanted your live reaction to this.
Let's hear this.
So, and this is why we are showing you the money, because this man, this is possibly the greatest contract, coaching contract, maybe even player contract in sports history.
Probably. Let's hear it.
Honestly, this is a fantastic deal. It is a 10-year contract for $110 million.
Woo!
That's $11 million a year.
That's more than Saban.
Now, right. So, Lincoln Riley, he has a home in Oklahoma.
Yep.
He also has it was just finished building a home that he and his wife and his family were starting to move into. University of Southern California is buying both his homes in Norman, Oklahoma for $500,000 over the asking price.
Oh, jeez.
Essentially to serve as $1 million sign-on bonus.
Wow.
In addition to the cost of the homes that he will also get.
Jeez.
But you got to have a place to live out in California, right? They're buying him a $6 million home in Los Angeles, which is considered the campus-provided luxury housing.
Campus-provided luxury housing. Jeez.
But that's not all.
But wait.
You got a lot of family back in Oklahoma. You got a lot of family across the country.
Right.
How are you going to get there? You're going to get there with the unlimited use of the university's private jet 24/7 for him and his family.
What? No. What? 24/7, unlimited. Like, when it's available, he can just say, I'm hopping on the plane.
For him and his family. Whenever he wants, he can just say, you know what? I want to head back to Norman and see some of my old players this week.
Oh
I
my
want to head
gosh.
out to New York,
Yeah.
have a nice weekend with the wife.
I'm gonna go to
You know what?
Cabo. I'm gonna go to Paris. I'm
Right?
gone.
I don't know if that's maybe just domestic flights though. I don't
I
know,
don't know, but
but
Jiminy Christmas.
and most of this this has all been uh, from multiple sources.
Yep.
I will say. So I mean, nothing has actually been officially provided by the university because why would a university admit to like giving all this stuff up? But excuse me, I'm just going to say this right now. If I were Lincoln Riley and I was offered these details on the contract, I wouldn't even ask my wife.
Oh yeah,
I would not.
yeah.
No, it would be, hey honey, I did a thing today. We're gonna move to California.
See, I would ask questions. See, you know me, I'm not the California guy, so you're gonna have to make sure.
I'm not a California guy too,
Yeah.
but I can be a fan of $110 million.
You better make sure I am richly rewarded. He is getting everything in that box of rocks. If you know the Taco Bell commercial from back in the day, that box of rocks. It had,
Yeah.
it had everything in it. He has all of that and then some in that box
Right.
because he's gonna pay more than Saban. He's getting a $6 million, which I'm guessing is worth about the same as a $2 million house in Oklahoma. Figuring it costs 3 times as much you live in Cali.
At least.
At least.
I
So
mean, Oklahoma is not a super expensive place to live. You might be 2 million plus land, or it would be like a home plus land
right,
in Oklahoma,
right.
or like a lake house or
Right.
something like that. But $6 million in LA,
Oof.
you're still going to get yourself a
Oh, yeah.
really good size house.
I mean,
I know of a guy down in Miami. He's got a $3 million home, and it's huge. So $6 million in Los Angeles has got to be pretty massive. So.
Jeez.
Chris, I think now would be a great time to do the quote that you were going to save for later.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we could speculate why he was leaving the Oklahoma, the SEC Big 12 move, anything like that. But he could say I'm not doing it for the money. But Chris, what is he doing?
Well, this comes from the movie Spaceballs, the greatest spoof movie of all time. This is Lone Star talking to Barf, yes, his companion Barf, and saying, listen, we're not doing this for the money. We're doing this for an expletive load of money. And you guys know the quote, you know the expletive is a poop load of money. It is. That's what he did it for. He did it for all the monies. He did it for all the monies.
For real. Honestly, this is... Yeah. You can't say no to a deal like that.
No, you'd be stupid. Absolutely stupid. You're going to get $11 million a year to coach football.
Plus $1 million sign-on bonus, plus the cost of your homes, plus a $6 million mansion, plus a freaking private jet. Is this Brad Pitt?
He might as well be. He's 38 years old. He is a young head coach who you think you can run the Pac-12 for the next 10, 12, 30 years if he continues on his trajectory he's on, because he was running the Big 12 already.
Oh, yeah.
And the Pac-12 is exactly the same spot the Big 12 was, where there is no leader in the clubhouse. Oregon's good, yes, but are they really that good? No. Are there other teams in the Big Pac-12 that are good? Yeah, but when they face other schools, they get whipped on. So he could run that conference.
And that's not to say that USC is a great program right now.
No, it's not.
This is not the Pete Carroll USC.
Absolutely not. But Oklahoma was no longer, like Bob Stoops' final years, was not the Bob Stoops of Oklahoma of his prime. He took that thing around and turned around quick, fast, in a hurry. So they're hoping he does the same thing.
He was quoted saying, this will become the mecca of college football. And Lincoln Riley said that of USC.
Probably right.
Here's where it gets a little spicy. Isaiah Thomas, a defensive lineman for Oklahoma, responded to that saying he told us that last week.
Oh,
to Oklahoma, he said the same thing.
Ooh.
So that is where I'm starting to not like Lincoln Riley, is he is now, he's telling his players that before he's even left, we're gonna become the next greatest thing in college football, and then a week later he's gone.
Well, that's not surprising. They happen all the time in college football. You can't really be shocked by that. They tend to do that. They do the rah, 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 and then they take it and to the next year, they do the rah, rah, rah again.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like PJ Fleck in Minnesota. He's had the same shtick at every job, and it works at every job because it's a good shtick. So
yeah.
and we're a good coach on top of that, good shtick, you kind of have it made in the bag. And also, didn't I see Oklahoma's like top QB recruit decommit from Oklahoma the second year Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma?
I think I did hear some rumblings about
He's
that
a 5-star
because
quarterback.
he was
Top,
a verbal commit.
yeah,
Obviously, we haven't
yeah,
hit signing
yeah.
day, and so
Yeah,
yeah,
he's a top, he's a 5-star quarterback, a top 5 player, I think, in his class, and he decommitted second year. Lincoln Riley's not going to Oklahoma. What does that tell you about the power of a good recruiter in college football? They have all the powers.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, the same thing would happen with, I would say, damn near every Alabama recruit if
yep,
Nick Saban were to do the same thing. Wouldn't
absolutely,
matter if he was going to Appalachian State,
no,
he would pull some bodies.
absolutely, absolutely. And if he retired, it'd be almost worse because then these players are like, well, where do we go? We can go here, we can go there, we can go anywhere. And Alabama now becomes a second tier destination point because they no longer have the coach.
Exactly. So now Lincoln Riley is the coach for USC, and he's going to have some pull across the country.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the only coach that
Nope.
was on the move. Yesterday, November 29th, per a report from Yahoo Sports' Pete Thamel, LSU hired Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly to replace Ed Orgeron as a head coach who was actually Ed Orgeron left that position earlier this year.
Uh,
There
End of
was
the
a
season.
mutual
End of the season.
end of the season.
They
Okay,
agreed to
there
it
because there
in like
was
October, but he would say until the end of the season is what they agreed
right,
on.
and the deal with that was also that I think Ed Orgeron is staying on in some um, function in the athletic
Yep.
department. I think possibly in more of maybe not quite athletic director role, but moving into something more administration.
Right.
So that was also kind of the reasoning for that is like he kind of wanted to move on to something
Yep.
else, and it was a good time for them. And now obviously Brian Kelly is reaping the benefits of that.
Do you want me to take
But
this?
first,
So
or
you want me to take this so you have time to soak it in and build and see a little bit. I know this is gonna be a top stake coming because I can see the Notre Dame thing in the back of your on your wall. Do you want me to bring this around so you have time to
uh,
see?
yeah,
Okay.
why
Okay.
don't you
All right.
you read it out? Because there's some stuff about Ed Orgeron who,
Yeah.
all credit to him, he's a great
Yeah.
coach. Um, but yeah, as a Notre Dame fan, this one hit hard, so I'll
Yeah.
let you read this in.
All right, so Orgeron, as some of you may recall, won the national championship with Joe Burrow in 2019 over Clemson, absolutely spanking them in the process, for which he was rewarded with a 6-year, $42 million contract extension. So he was getting paid pretty good money. But they went downhill when Joe Burrow left. Obviously, you lose your star quarterback, you tend to go downhill. But they just weren't the same team. They probably weren't ever going to be the same team after they lost Joe Burrow and Joe Brady. So Brian Kelly, that's how Brian Kelly enters the fold because he is the winningest coach in Notre Dame history in total wins, not titles. He has 105 wins at Notre Dame, or is 106? I can't remember, but he has the most in Notre Dame history. And they're in the middle of a CFP bid, in the middle of trying to make the college football playoffs, and they're pretty much a lock to get in or close to get in if Bama loses and if another team in the top 4 loses in the playoffs, but we'll get into that later. So it was like a bad time for Notre Dame, and it's unclear at this time why he left Notre Dame, but we have more details later. Tom has more details that we just didn't know at this time. At the time of writing down the notes, we didn't know why he left. I assumed in my notes I did the Spaceballs school. I assumed as for a poop load of money. It turns out Lincoln Riley got a poop load of money. Not to discredit what Brian Kelly is going to get, but it's less than Lincoln Riley money.
Right, and I don't. There's Lincoln Riley money is now a completely different league
Yeah.
of its own. But Brian Kelly, yeah. First of all, the contract details were released in part. 10 years, $95 million, which
Oof.
puts him
Below
about
Saban.
300,000 a year less than Saban. Saban's currently at about 9.8 plus incentives.
Yeah.
With the incentives, puts um, Nick Saban around
Yeah.
10.7 from what we have heard. And those incentives come in the form of bonuses, bowl game bonuses, the like.
Yeah.
So
Playoffs. Talking about the playoffs.
yeah,
Playoffs.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and Lincoln, or excuse me, Brian Kelly, his contract is including incentives. They say is going to be north of 100 million as well,
Mm-hmm.
but the incentives themselves have not been released at this time. So all we can go off of is purely salary at this point at 9.5 million a year for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that something that's sticking in the back of his mind is he's been with Notre Dame for what, about 10 years now,
11 years, I think it
little
was.
11 years. I
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah.
2010
Yeah.
that he came from Cincinnati,
Yep. Yeah.
and he's the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. He's also um, he's got one of the longest
I
tenures
think so too. I saw that too, which is
at
odd.
Notre Dame too. It's like, which, I mean, you even think about Charlie Weiss, who was a great coach in the early 2000s. It was in the Brady Quinn era. He wasn't there that long, and no
No.
championships, and not anywhere near the length of time to
No.
get the wins that Brian Kelly has. But I mean, you're looking at consistently, 8 to 12 wins a year.
Yep.
And that's what happens when you have 8 to 12 wins a year for 11 years. But no titles. And I'm sure that sticking in the back of his mind is, he's what, 69, 70 years old
70 years,
almost?
60 years
70
old.
years.
He's 60. He's only 60.
60. No, no, no. I'm thinking
Yeah.
Saban's like nearing 70.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to win a championship before 70. So maybe his thought is going to the SEC, which is one of the most competitive conferences
Yeah.
in his mind. He's also lost to Alabama twice, SEC team twice,
Yeah.
lost to Clemson
Yeah.
in the playoffs, and thinking maybe he needs to go somewhere where, in his mind, the players go. But
Athletes
here's
before
the problem.
academics?
Here's
that
the
what you're
problem
saying?
that I have with that. Yeah, yeah. And here's the problem that I have with that is Notre Dame will pull premier athletes from across the country, and has. He currently has a Heisman candidate
Mm-hmm.
on his team. Excuse me. But and he's got a wealth of athleticism across the board. He's got incredible coaches, fine young-minded coaches, young mind, um, excuse me, young, strong-minded coaches,
Yeah.
um, in the form of Tommy Rees, Marcus Freeman, others. You have the staff at Notre Dame. Obviously, what you're leaving for is money.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell me that you have a better chance at a title at LSU. Obviously, they had the title in 2019, but where's LSU this year? Where were they last year?
Yeah.
They're not at the level that you're looking at Notre Dame at right now. Notre Dame was a playoff team last year, and they're likely. I think that as of today, there's about a 60% chance that they'll be a playoff team this year.
Ooh, really? That high?
Yeah,
Ooh,
that high. The last I heard was between 58 and 60%.
Ooh.
And
Interesting.
So you're clearly leaving for money, and the timing at which that you're doing it while you're in a CFP race tells me that you're leaving for money, and you only care about your money. You can't tell me that you care about your players. You maybe care that they heard it over social media, but you can't tell me that you care about your players enough um, to not stay on. I mean, this is not something that you do when you're in the hunt for a title, unless he's given up, and maybe he has. Losing to his old team, Cincinnati, maybe that did it for him.
Right.
And then in the last week saying no to the USC deal, and maybe he didn't get the Lincoln Riley package. But and honestly, the way that he's leaving, I'm kind of glad that he didn't get the Lincoln Riley package. Yeah. I don't think leaving the way that he did, in the manner that he did, in the timing that he did, he deserves the Lincoln Riley package. Right. I love what Brian Kelly has done for the Notre Dame program, but leaving the way that he is leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not going to forget that for a long time. And I know that players and benefactors and super fans won't either. The way that he left is not right.
I have a feeling. I thought that's gonna be your response because it's in the middle of a playoff. Which my response was yours. Like it's a bad look to leave when he did, If there's a way for him to negotiate to leave after the season, like sign the contract, say, hey, can we push it till after the season for me to finish up this run and one more shot? I would say I get it at that point. But to leave in the middle of the run, where you're just a weekend away from finding out if you're in the playoffs, is a bad look. It's one of the problems with college football's coaching hiring process, where the second you're hired, you leave. It's one of the things where they should negotiate these contracts and wait till the end of the season, like the NFL does, where you can't sign unless your team's eliminated from the playoffs or it's the end of the season, which is my mind makes the most sense. And I'm going to the point, and I'm actually glad. I'm actually surprised you're so calm about this. I was expecting more fiery Tom. Tom's like Tom.
I'm boiling
You're
right now. I'm just gonna say.
you're just beyond the anger. You're at the calm, quiet
I'm
frustration point.
there have been several occasions, even within the last year, but in my life, where I've been so incredibly angry that I can't yell.
Yeah.
That it just completely overwhelms me, and I'm just almost, stunned.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. I'm at that point too. I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way. They said Notre Dame. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, as all of you know. Grew up in the borough of Chicago, where there are two types of Notre Dame fans: those that love them and those that don't like them. I'm at that don't like them stage, but I was shocked. Like, you're leaving a prestigious college that's one of the premier in all college football. Everyone knows Notre Dame football for LSU, which is only good when they've had Nick Saban and Les Miles on occasion. They've never had consistent, sustained success that Notre Dame has from coach to coach to coach to coach to coach. Varying degrees, mind you, but it's still a high level. It's not like Michigan, where Michigan went through dark years before Jim Harbaugh got there, or USC, which had Pete Carroll, and that's been it, pretty much. Notre Dame has been there every time they get a new coach. They get back up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, they might get knocked back down, but they get back up there. So I was shocked, and my assumption it's for the money, and I think I'm right. It was for the money and nothing else, because there's no other reason to make this move, because unless he thinks being in the SEC gives him a championship game, which gives him a better chance of making the CFP, because he has that one last chance in case they're number 5 to win a championship game, to vault themselves into the playoffs rather than hoping for some help along the way. Might be his only reason for that, but I don't think that holds water, because LSU is not going to hold up to Alabama as long as Nick Saban is alive and kicking, and maybe even the ghost of Nick Saban is still going to keep Alabama alive for many years to come at this point, with how they recruit and how they just win games even though they shouldn't win games.
Right, right. I think you've hit the nail on the head there with that. It's Yeah. I guess it's really hard to see with clarity how this isn't about money. Moving on from that, though, I do want to kind of outline. We don't really have any prospects on the Oklahoma job,
No.
but because the Brian Kelly job was even more shocking, or the Brian Kelly exit was even more shocking, we have a way too early prospect list,
All
and
right.
I just want to go over that
Go
really
ahead. Go ahead.
quickly.
Go ahead.
The first one was completely shot down earlier today. Urban Meyer. Urban
No.
Meyer said,
No.
"No, I'm not coming back to college."
No.
And so, like, I was like, "No." He's As soon as I saw his name, I'm like, "No, he's going to say that he's not." And then, like an hour later, he
No.
said no. Marcus Freeman, defensive coordinator for Notre Dame, was actually hired last year, I believe, or the end of last season, to kind of groom into being Brian Kelly's replacement one day. We just didn't expect that it would be this quickly.
This day,
So he's at least a potential for the interim head coach, and that's certainly at that point even an option for the head coach next season. One that has been thrown around quite a bit, like immediately within hours, was Luke Fickle from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's a solid coach.
Solid.
We're just going to become
Solid.
yeah,
Solid's an
solid.
understatement. Understatement. He's a
he
great
beat Notre
coach.
Dame.
He's a
He
excellent
beat
coach.
Notre Dame, yes.
He's excellent.
And that would just kind of show, like, hey, maybe Cincinnati is now just a pipeline for head coaches to Notre Dame. Another one, and I really like this option. Matt Campbell from Iowa State.
Okay.
He is a passionate coach. He has an incredible mind for the game. Even at being a head coach, he's a student of the game, and players respect him. and that's why I also, I mean, Iowa State's
Yeah.
among the top in the Big 12 also, and he's kind of the reason why
Yeah.
he pulls guys, even though it's not the biggest program. He works with what he's got, and he does really well with it. And then the last one that I'm kind of iffy about because I don't know a whole lot about him, Jeff Brom from Purdue, Brom
Ooh,
from
yeah, that
Purdue.
makes
I don't know
sense.
what his name, but I think it's a similar style of
Yeah,
coaching.
Purdue fights
Um,
hard.
yeah, and again, they're not one that
No,
that gets the top tier prospects from across the country,
they do not.
but he uh, he's done well given what he has to work with in the program, and again, I think it's that similar style of coaching that would almost be kind of like status quo, easy to move
Yeah.
the team into, and the mentality about the game. So those are kind of ones that I've heard. Obviously, I'm still a little bit in shock about it happening. If I had to pick one out of that list, I'd love to see Luke Fickle.
Yeah.
But I'd also, if I'm going to give an honorable mention, I want to see Marcus Freeman because I know that he was kind of hired to move up into that position. And just on a side note, I want to see him be the interim head coach
Mhm.
and win a title this year.
Oh, yeah. Give him the old. Give
Just
him. Yeah.
I just rub the salt right in the wound for Brian
Give
Kelly.
him the old Stone Cold Steve Austin 2 finger salute.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
So
right. All right.
yeah, that's all I got. Why don't you give us our
Yeah.
standings
All right.
and I'll calm down and have a cookie.
Yeah, after we got through that long first segment, usually they're not that long, but it is a great topic, so we had to take our time to get through it. We're gonna give you the quick version of the standings updates. In first in the NFC North, yes, it isn't scrolling along the screen the whole time for y'all, so you guys can see it while we're talking. But so that's why we're gonna give you the short version of it. Green Bay still leads the NFC North. Shocker, they're 9-3. NFC South is the Buccaneers to lose. They have a 3-game lead over the Falcons and Saints. Shocker, that's the case. In the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys have struggled and now only have a 2-game lead over the Washington football team. The Cowboys are no longer, they're the clear front runner still, but it's not much closer than we would have expected 2 weeks ago. In the NFC West, the Cardinals hold a 2-game lead over the Rams, and I doubt the Rams make the Super Bowl this year. I don't know how good they are at this point. They picked up Odell Beckham Jr. and they got worse. Shocker, OBJ makes your team worse. I've just been saying that for a while now. Come at me, bro. I don't care how good of a receiver is if he's a diva. And AFC North, the Ravens hold a 1-game lead over the Bungles. The Browns are close behind, and the Steelers are probably going to be in rebuild mode because Ben will retire at the end of the season. He's not said that, but he has only one thing to do at the end of the season is retire because he has already retired. He just doesn't know it yet. In the AFC South, the Titans hold a 2-game lead over the Colts. Colts have been playing excellent football as of late. I would not be shocked to see them in the playoffs, but we shall see. In the AFC East, a shocker that Tom and I did not expect. The Patriots have a half-game lead over the Bills in the division. Mac Jones is all that at this point. He is Tom Brady 2.0, it looks like, where he's just going to do his job and do it well. And in the AFC West, the Chiefs hold a 1-game lead over the Chargers, Broncos, and the Raiders. That division is too close to call because the Chiefs look like they're alive, but they could go right back to sleep just as quickly because that's what the Chiefs have done this season. Look alive, then look dead, then look alive again. We will find out in the next 5 weeks, I believe. Yeah, I think it's 5 weeks. We're into week 13. It's going to be 5 weeks. Holy Toledo.
Yep.
It's a
Yeah,
long freaking
we're
season.
coming. Yep, and we're coming down to the wire with that division. Like you said, I mean, we're a matter of like 1 week making a difference.
Yeah.
Really, 2 weeks
2
making a
weeks,
difference in this division. 2 weeks could just reshape the entire landscape of the AFC West.
Yeah. The only divisions
So
I feel safe calling right now are the NFC North and NFC South. That's it. Everything else I think is up in the NFC West. I'm gonna call that one too. I don't think the Rams are going to win it this year. The Cardinals are all that at this point because the Rams are broken on offense and defense.
Right. Yep, they've got some areas to work on for sure, and they certainly didn't help themselves by adding OBJ,
Yeah.
at least from a team morale standpoint. Thank you for giving us the quick rundown there. Like Chris said, down at the bottom, you will see the ticker with all the rankings.
Yeah.
As to be expected, our first segment that was intended to be an intro topic went long.
Was the
So,
main topic, yes.
and yeah, and I think a lot of that was because of how shocking it was
Yeah,
and the stuff that came out today. The
absolutely.
details that came out today.
It had to be long. There was no choice. It was that important of a topic. We had to spend 20 minutes on it because it was just that there's not much to cover.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I know that we covered a lot of college football, but we want to talk about the actual college football playoff
Yeah.
picture now.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut out like big games from last weekend.
Go ahead.
I'll do a brief overview. Ohio State, number 2 in the country, lost to Michigan, number 5 in
Oh,
the country,
yep.
27-42. Um, banner win for Jim Harbaugh,
First time
and
Michigan beat Ohio State in 10
first time.
years. In 10
Yep,
years.
and they are now their first Big Ten championship game
Yep.
next week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alabama, number 3, uh, needed 4 overtimes, but they did beat unranked Auburn 24-22. There were some others that kind of didn't really affect the playoff picture all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma losing to Minnesota and Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma. Oklahoma State was number 7 in the country.
Yep.
Oklahoma number 10. So
Yep.
neither one of those is really going to project their team up far enough to really be to have a leg to stand on when considered for the CFP.
You never know with Oklahoma State.
That's true, though.
I'll let you know. I'll give you we'll go through the projections. Actually, we have the real CFP ranks. If you want me to give you those, they were just posted like an hour or two ago.
Yeah.
So let me pull that up really quick. The CFP for the top, I'll give you top 6. These are the teams who have a chance to make it. In number 1, Georgia. Are we shocked? No, they're 12-0 in the SEC. They're number 1. Number 2, Michigan, 11-1. They just spanked Ohio State. Are we shocked? No. Am I disappointed? Yes. In number 3, Alabama, 11-1. They're still 3rd. They needed 4 overtimes to beat Auburn. Am I shocked at number 3? No, because the CFP overvalues them. Am I disappointed? Yes. Number 4, Cincinnati, 12-0. Just spanked ECU without a good offensive showing where the quarterback was all over the place. That team is dang good on defense, and they don't need much of an offense to win, which is against bad teams. Cincinnati should be higher in my estimation, but we'll get into that later. And number 5 is Oklahoma State. They leapfrogged Notre Dame. Notre Dame is now 6 in the CFP standings, and those are the only 6 teams I see making to the playoffs at this point, given what we have coming up this weekend. So those are your 6 teams to watch this weekend. Tom, your reaction to Notre Dame getting skipped over by OK State?
Surprised and not at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Notre Dame's wins this year. They're big time wins. I mean, against ranked opponents that started the season out ranked and or were considered very highly across the country. North Carolina, top of the ACC.
That's a low bar.
And Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin doesn't look good right now. That does not look like a good one.
I mean, they just beat Stanford. Whooped Stanford. Yeah. They beat the little girls from Georgia Tech. The week prior. That was a nice birthday present. Let me just say that I got to sit in the box at the game and got to see a 55-0 win.
Oh, jeez.
Beautiful. Anyway, so I'm not surprised. I mean, Oklahoma State is now just coming off of a huge win against Oklahoma. Yeah. So now seeing that, I'm not surprised that they jumped from 7 to 5 because Notre Dame was they were 5, right? Or no, they were
Notre Dame was 6. They stayed at 6. They just stayed packed
because Stanford's not a huge win anymore.
No, they're not.
So
they're not the same.
No, I'm not surprised. Yeah. But I mean that. It does pose the question then which one's going to be valued higher when you're considering the CFP. I mean, we look at an SEC matchup that will take out one of the
maybe
the two potentially.
We'll cover that in a second.
Georgia losing could still end up in the top 4, but Alabama losing would certainly drop them.
Yep.
Then you have to then value does Notre Dame's record as it stands right now, is that worth more than Oklahoma State? And honestly, obviously they're not valuing it that much now, so why would it change in a week?
The other problem you have is Oklahoma State plays a championship game against number 10 Baylor. If Oklahoma State beats Baylor, they're going in.
They're going in. It's ranked. It's a championship game. That's what you run. That's the risk you run
Yeah.
being an independent.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't get a conference title.
You have to go undefeated in order to get in. That's your only option. You have to run that table, and hope your strength of schedule, which you thought is strong going into the season, remains that strong, which is one of the disadvantages. I think their partnership with the ACC will help them because you'll get Clemson more often, you'll get some better teams more often, but it does hurt, also cut back against you because you might get those Georgia Tech games more often where you have your schedule around say, I want to take this tough team and fight them. So
that Florida State was another win. I'll say that this
Florida
year.
State, they played pretty well this year, but it's not. I think it's interesting. So, do you guys want me to talk the non-college football fan give his opinions real quick? So
yeah, go ahead.
Hear an idiot talk for about 5 minutes, and you can say if I'm right or wrong. Okay.
No, so, you go for it. Go for it, and then we'll each give our playoff 4.
Okay, so my reading of the situation is Georgia is playing Alabama. Georgia wins. Alabama's out. Georgia's the 1 seed. Whoop-de-doo. We all know that's the scenario. So as a Notre Dame fan, I'm reading as you want Georgia to beat Bama. No doubt about it, just to get them out of the picture. So there's 1 spot open in the Final Four. Michigan is playing Minnesota. I have very little doubt Michigan loses to Minnesota, as do the odds makers. I think it's a 10.5-point spread in Michigan's favor with the way they just beat Ohio State. Now, they did lose to Michigan State, but that's a rivalry game, and that's always going to be a tough one. So I think they beat Minnesota quite handedly because they just beat Ohio State rather handedly as well. We shall see. So if I'm you, I'm cheering on Minnesota, but I'm not sure that one's going to be the upset you get. Since Alabama's a 3 seed, I thought they should have moved back to 4, and I would put Cincinnati at 2 and have had Michigan at 3. Cincinnati is still undefeated, people. I don't care if they're not a Power 5 school. They've beaten everyone. They beat Notre Dame, who is still a top 10 team, still looking unbeatable outside of Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, in my mind, should be higher, even though Michigan does have the great win they just had, which kind of swings opinions in their favor. No offense, Michigan or Rich Eisen, but I think Michigan should be 3 at this point. Notre Dame is kind of stuck cheering for teams to lose. They need Alabama to lose, and then they need Cincinnati or Oklahoma State or Michigan to lose their championship game to try to get in there, because at this point, if Oklahoma State wins, they're going to be the next team up because they just played another game against a top 10 team. So they're going to need help from Minnesota, Houston, who I don't think is going to beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati beat the brakes off them first time around. They're probably going to do it again. They know they are this close to be the first non-Power 5 team in the CFP, and there's no way Luke Fickell's going to let that go down the drain. There's no way that they're going to let that happen with that program. And that means you need Oklahoma State, in my opinion, to lose to Baylor. Possible, but I don't know. I don't know how you feel about those matches, but in my mind, the best chances you have are you need Georgia to beat Alabama, and then you need Baylor to beat Oklahoma State. The other 2 games I don't see being upsets because of how far apart they are in talent.
I agree. Michigan to Minnesota, like you said, it's a huge spread, and it's the way that Michigan played this past week against a phenomenal Ohio State team. They look unstoppable as far as Big Ten teams go. So playing against honestly, a lesser Big Ten team.
Yep.
No offense to Minnesota,
no,
but they're not Michigan. They're not Ohio State.
They're not Michigan State either.
Right. Well, and Michigan State was number 3 at the time when they played them earlier this year.
Yep.
I believe, or top 5. Anyway.
They were top 5. I can't remember where they were.
Right. I know that they were 3 when they lost. That's when it was. But anyway, so I mean, you're right. That one's not probable. Cincinnati's not likely. So really, the only chance is Alabama losing and then Oklahoma State losing to Baylor. If that happens, Notre Dame will probably get the 4.
Probably.
But no other way.
No other way.
So here's my college football playoff top 4. Right, how I'm predicting.
Predicting it? Okay, I'll give you my prediction at the end, but go ahead.
Georgia, number 1.
Yep.
Michigan, not changing.
Yep.
Number 2.
They'll say it too.
Cincinnati going up to number 3,
Mm-hmm.
just because they'll get snubbed.
Yep.
Oklahoma State 4. As
Okay.
much as I want to say Notre Dame as a fan, as a realist, I don't think Oklahoma State is going to lose. I don't think Michigan is going to lose. I don't think Cincinnati is going to lose. I think Alabama could lose, and that's how the progression will go.
Yep. I 100% agree with you because I think Alabama's a deeply flawed team. They're 11-1 because they have a better coach than every team they play, but they're not better than Georgia this year. It's not even close to this point in time. And Michigan looks like Jim Harbaugh is on a mission to get into the CFP and to finish the job, especially with his comments about Ryan Day being on third base, acting like he hit a triple. I love that comment. It's one of my favorite comments I heard of the weekend. And Cincinnati, it's more of a personal thing. I think that they have the talent to do so. I think that snubbed last year, and they really are upset about that. And they're on a mission to be the voice for liberty for our, what was that, Coastal Carolina that went 13.
Coastal Carolina, yeah.
Coastal Carolina, UCF, Boise State,
right.
All those teams that have been screwed over for the last like 15, 20 years. They're saying enough's enough. We're finishing this job. And I wouldn't be shocked if they took down Michigan in the process just to thumb their nose at the committee and say, yeah, we may be a small school, but we can kick anyone's butts. Watch us do it on the live stage. So Cincinnati's the team I would fear most, and I hope they don't get screwed and get to 4 and face Georgia right away. I think Georgia is still better than them.
Yeah, I do think I do agree with that. I think Georgia is the clear best team in the country right now. But Cincinnati definitely has the talent there. They have the coaching. They have a very strong approach to the game right now. Again, they're not in a strong conference, but they've beaten Notre Dame. They've beaten top 10 teams. And last year they had an incredible season and got snubbed. So I think they're playing pissed this year. And excuse me, I think the matchup should be Georgia and Oklahoma State, Michigan, Cincinnati. I would love to see Cincinnati go the distance, win the championship, at least get to the title game to show like, hey, we're for real. Selfishly, as an Irish fan, I don't want Cincinnati to win a title because that gives them a chance to sign Luke Fickell to Notre Dame. But I think Cincinnati Luke Fickell gets Cincinnati to a title game. He's gonna get he's not going anywhere. Regardless of if he wins or not, he's gonna stay
unless
Notre Dame pulls the gold off the dome to pay him.
Right, unless they pull the USC, LSU, Alabama ridiculous contract and says here's all the monies, go do what you just did with more monies and an easier pull and saying, hey, I'm now the same guy but at Notre Dame. You're going to get better talent than he already gets in Cincinnati, which is about, I'm guessing, 3 and 4 stars that he coaches up to be 5 stars by the time they're seniors. So it's a great coaching job on his part.
Right. But again, Cincinnati wins a title. Maybe kids across the country start thinking, hey, maybe I should go there. I can go and sit for 3 years at, LSU or Oklahoma, or I can start at Cincinnati by my sophomore year. That sort of stuff. Just seeing it on this stage, it makes a difference.
Or maybe I got screwed. I'm not a 4, I'm a 5. I just need someone to believe I'm a 5, and Luke Fickell will get you to that point where it says, holy crud, why did this guy not get picked up by this school or that school? Maybe because they overlooked him. That's just how, or maybe because they knew there's someone in the pipeline coming down the track who might be even better. I guess that's how that works in the world of college football. But like I said, I'm just sorry that I actually popped on the screen, guys. So you guys probably got that message because they just.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize. I thought that was the private chat.
It does, but it pops up on my screen so I can read it, and it pops up just enough that it hops over to the. I think the private chat's on your right, sir. It's on the right hand side of the screen.
No, I got it said private chat.
Oh, well, that's probably yeah. Well, it popped up on. I saw it plain as day.
Well, because it's not private on your screen.
No.
All right. Continue, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I just messed up the stream.
No, sorry guys, but it's all right. We had another topic coming forward for this week, but we've decided to skip it because we got stuck in a college football rabbit hole, and we're just stuck now. We're talking sports, so sorry guys.
Yep.
We talk sports, we don't stop.
Sorry.
So
we'll do all the and more topics next week.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. But college football and Chris talking college football is interesting because Chris knows about this much about college football. He knows just enough to sound like he knows what he's talking about.
I was gonna say just enough to be dangerous, right?
Just enough to be dangerous. Just enough to be dangerous. So
yeah.
Going forward, we're going to skip the next topic. Don't look. We're going to Week 13 game of the week. We have a banger for you guys out of the NFC East. We have the top-seeded New England Patriots at 8-4 facing off against one of our favorite teams to have in this game of the week because we think they're a Super Bowl team going into the season. We shall find out in the Buffalo Bills at 7-4, half game out of first. Currently, Patriots score 28.0 points per game on offense, 7th in the NFL, and allow 15.8 points per game on defense. Yowzas. Best in the NFL with a point differential of 12.2 points. So they're really winning their football games. And the Bills currently score 29.6 points per game on offense, the number 2 offense in the NFL, and allow 16.5 points per game on defense, the second best in the NFL for a net point differential of 13.4 points per game. Currently, Vegas has it as Bills by 3. This is a game where I would point out we had the same problem with the Colts game, and I said if the Colts run the football, Colts win. Colts ran the football, Colts beat the Bills. So be careful, Vegas. Be careful.
Exactly. So last year we did a random assignment on. We just did like a random number generator. We assigned a number to one team and one team and two to the other, and that's how we got the game. And it was my turn to get the team picked for me, right?
Yeah.
So here I don't have Excel up or anything, but I do have a coin. Chances are still 50-50. So it's your chance, it's your week to have the team picked, right?
Yes.
So the coin is heads Patriots, tails Bills.
Oh
Do
boy.
you trust me to flip the coin?
I trust you.
All right. I'm an honest guy.
Yeah. For a banker, yes.
We won't go there. And it is tails.
All right, so that is who again? Sorry, brain.
That is the Bills.
Bills. Oh, yeah. All right, so this was the team I would not have picked if I had a free choice because.
That's the team I would have.
See, my thing is.
Should we just switch? Let's just switch.
No. Bills are fine.
All right.
I'm okay with it. So my thing is the Bills' offense, when it is cooking, cannot be stopped. Keyword is when it is cooking, which means when Josh Allen is seeing the field and dumping it off when he needs to, and then doing the Josh Allen, I have a cannon for an arm, throwing that ball on a rope 50 yards on the field, and the ball doesn't travel higher than 7 feet in the air because he has that much of a rope on him, which he had in college, which is where in town I watched on the draft, we said, oh my gosh, why can't we have this guy at quarterback?
Exactly.
He threw the ball on the line, falling out of bounds, and the ball didn't. That throw he made at Wyoming is still actually my brain as to why I wish we had him at quarterback. But the Bills' defense is good at stopping the pass because that's what you need to do in the NFL today, but not so great at stopping the run, which is what New England does extraordinarily well, is run the football and play time of possession football. So my hope is in this game the Bills' defense finds a way to contain the triple head threat of the Patriots run game and force Mac Jones to beat them, and Josh Allen starts off on fire. Like Josh Allen is throwing the ball left-handed on fire. I don't care how on fire it is. I want it to be that insane where he's just hitting everyone throwing the ball through their chest. No, not really. We saw that Jay Cutler doesn't work out so well when you do that. Have some finesse on the ball to make sure the ball is catchable with the cannon that he has.
That'd be nice, and it's certainly possible because he's with him anything pretty much is possible. So
either he's gonna put
when he's
points,
on
he's on. Pick the number. He'll put that on you.
Yep, exactly. So that means I got the Pats this week. Like we said, they got the 7th best offense in the NFL and allow the least amount of points on defense. So I think defense is going to be the key factor here. Is you've got a high producing Bills offense. I think if the Patriots defense can show up and suppress that Bills offense the way that they have suppressed teams up to this point, I think that that's going to make this a very even game across the board, whether Josh Allen is on and whether Mac Jones is on or not. I think that defense will be kind of the X factor for the Patriots. But like you said, that the Patriots' run game is on point right now, and I think that they're going to continue to ground and pound because that works for them until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, that's when they're going to really run into trouble. So I think that the Patriots really using that run game, and then Mac Jones going through the air and being patient in the pocket and providing him time to do so. That's really going to be to his benefit. He hasn't done horrible this year. I think that he's having a good rookie year. But if he doesn't have time, that's when you're going to see rushed passes. So if they're going to go through the air, you got to give him time. So that's I think the key factors. Give Mac Jones time in the pocket, continue to pound that running game, and then the defense needs to show up. If the defense doesn't show up, doesn't matter what your offense is going to do. Josh Allen's going to run all over you.
Yeah. Yep. And this is what I like to call the Bears Future Head Coach Bowl. Josh McDaniels versus Brian Daboll. We're going to see two Bears coaching candidates, I think, play out in this game because Matt Nagy. Sorry, guys, I go back to the Bears because Matt Nagy is not long for Chicago. May he rest in peace when he gets fired from the Bears. And Brian Daboll is the hot name, but we shall see how I feel about that in the coming weeks. But sorry, guys, I had to talk about Bears for just a second because I can't wait for Nagy to be fired. Sorry, Matt. I know you're a great guy and all that, but dude.
As a coach, dude. It's time to cut the cord.
Cut the cord.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the lead now on the outro. That is our game of the week.
Yeah.
We got me with the Patriots, Chris with the Bills. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, toggle notifications to all, point in all directions on the screen. And if you're getting this from Facebook, don't forget to like the post and share it. We love to see. I think I'm the only one that shares the posts. So we'd love to see some other ones get shared by you other folks out there. I know that there's a handful that listen. We are now 7 podcast plays away from 4 digits.
Oh.
I mean, with our YouTube plays, we're over 1,000. But with the podcast alone, the audio alone, we are now at 993. So
the confetti cannon is
I wanted to go ahead and get all the like, subscribe crap out of the way before you hit yours. So take both of your sections in a row.
Okay, so remember, like Tom said, to go to the Facebook page and like and pay and check out our information. Tom usually has great posts throughout the day, keeping up with the sports stuff, and also lets you guys know when we're recording. So he'll let you know when we have everything recorded and everything posted. Also, you can email us at sportsandmore with CT, capital C, capital T, at gmail.com. And we would like to thank all of you, probably the tens of people listening to our ridiculous takes and rambles on everything regarding college football related. And money, and poop loads of money at that point.
So much money. So much money.
All the monies.
I can't even fathom how much money. Our next episode's creation date is to be decided. But as always, we will try to post the day that we are recording. I've actually yet to do that tonight. I'm going to do that before I go to bed. That way it's technically still day and I'm not lying. But keep an eye on Facebook for all of those updates, all the daily posts or the during the day posts that we get for all the fun stuff. But until the next episode, as always, please stay safe and healthy, and above all, stay free.
Sports and More with Chris and Thom is brought to you by no one. All non-original thoughts and ideas were properly noted during each segment.